Parks and Recreation Committee. We've looked at many sites, and since the last meeting, which I was not at, the public hearing, since that hearing, directed as a comment by Brian that we should look into the property behind the postal annex, which I'm not particularly exactly sure what's going on down there, but new treatment plant or whatever, or electrical something. But anyway, I approached Dave Hanlon because we are still looking. We're looking constantly. So I approached Dave, and Dave said, absolutely not. We're lucky we're getting permission for our own town trucks to be able to go on federal property behind there. The Walmart site, that's void. We have contacted them so many times, and the only person we've ever spoken with is the secretary. None of the owners have ever gotten back to us, so obviously they're not interested in supplying us with that property to use. So, and we are continuously looking at sites, so I just want to address that. I don't know if you have a site in mind. Do you have a site in mind?
It's not particularly have a site in mind. I guess what I'm more concerned about is everyone else gets to say no. But the abutters here, they're saying no.
No, there's been no...
Walmart says no, the DPW says no, these other places say no. But yet those of us that have lived in these homes, I'm sure the Roberts have lived there for 30 some odd years. I've lived in North Reading for almost 50 years. When I bought my house, I didn't buy it next to a dog park. I didn't expect that, and I don't expect it now. And I get to say no. I get to say I don't want that there in my backyard.
Excuse me, DPW did not say no. The federal government owns the property.
They get to say no.
So they get to say no. The Walmart property, we do not own.
Yeah.
Whoever owns that property owns that property. So I don't believe there's been another group in town that has said no to any site. We have not found what we consider to be a viable site.
How about the JT Berry and the Mullen?
We need about, if we do it, about $50,000 to be able to move it. And it's not to say that at some point in research that I've done over the past couple of weeks. Yeah.
Proceeded the research that I did on that already? Or?
Yeah, a little bit gone beyond your research, Brian. We're not going to get into that tonight. Thank you.
Not only that, I want everything addressed through the chair.
Thank you very much for that. Anyway, I believe I answered Mrs. Wood's question. So
May I ask a follow-up question?
Mrs. Wood.
Thank you. What are the numbers that you're expecting to put into the Park Street location as just to upgrade the fence and upgrade the gate and policing and permitting and all of that? I'm just curious.
We don't have an exact figure right now, but we also will be receiving fees from the users of the park. So, and if we do put any money into it, it will become out of money that Parks and Rec raises ourselves.
Which would happen if you moved it to the Mullen site? Same thing.
We are not putting nearly that amount of money in. We offered, as we said, to replace the fence that goes across the front and to add another fence just going down the side. We already have picnic tables, and most of the rest of it is just labor that will be done by the Parks Department. So it's a matter of 2 fences, 2 gates, padlock, keys, but like I said, we have not decided on what the usage fee will be either. Was there another question you had that I didn't address? I'm sorry.
No, I think you've addressed this.
Okay, thank you.
Brian Woods.
The one question I would like to have addressed is the total amount of dogs that would be allowed in the park at one time, and also the total amount of park permits that would be issued at one time. I would like to approach the chair and just submit just some impact maps that would show the difference between Mullen and Park Street without just the bare facts as to what happens at Park Street. 500, 1,000, 1,500 foot radius, and what happens to Mullen Field at a 500, 1,000, and 1,500 radius. That's the criteria for it. Basically, long and short, the Mullen Field within 500 feet, there's 5 households and 1 state facility affected.
I'm sorry, Brian, say it again, please.
Sure. At Mullen Field, within a 500-foot radius, there are 5 households and 1 state facility affected. Within 1,000 feet of the Mullen Field site, there are 25 households in addition to the 5 406 rental units and 1 town facility. And within 1,500 feet, there are an additional 32 households, for a total of 63 households and 406 rental units. At the Park Street location, within a 500-foot radius, there are 10 households affected. Within a 1,000-foot radius, there are 45 households in addition affected, and then within 1,500-foot radius, there are 62 additional households affected, so for a total of 127 households affected within the Park Street area. Keeping in mind that the 406 units are not built, and I also like to just bring up the fact that a rental unit is a transient population. 2 to 3 years is the average stay for a renter in a situation like that. Whereas somebody who lives around a facility like Park Street, you know that they're going to be there 6 to 7 years on average. Some of us a lot more.
Thank you, Brian. At this point, I'd like to make a couple of comments. One is that this dog park was never formally approved by any town agency. 2, the board a number of months ago suggested very strongly to the Recreation Department that this was not an appropriate location for a dog park. And our message was, we're not against a dog park, but find a location that the entire community can live with. And we've been round and round and round, and I think at this point the board has just been forced into making a decision that we hopefully didn't have to make. So at this point, do we have a motion? Does anyone want to make a motion? I'm cutting the debate on it because we're the same arguments over and over again.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close close the Park Street Dog Park.
Is there a date?
No,
No later than, or?
yep, no. Mr. Chairman, I move to close the Park Street Dog Park no later than July 25th, 2007.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second. Purpose of discussion. July 25th, what's the date?
Yeah, I was thinking
Oh,
that we need to give them some.
Okay. I'm sorry. No, the end of September is way too long. Till August 15th.
I would say to
Labor Day? Which is
it's September 3rd.
September 3rd. I amend that to say September 3rd, 2007.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Bino, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion, Mr. Bino.
Yes, thank you. Just under discussion and comments, I think the whole issue here is the quality of life for the neighbors. I've said this before and I say it again. As Mr. Roberts has said, he's gone around to, it was either 13 or 15, the direct neighbors, and they are opposed to it. This is the issue here. There is an issue of safety, and I will always say there's an issue of safety there. There could have been an issue of safety prior. I had not been made aware of it. If I was, I certainly would have looked into it at that time. My main concern with this is the quality of life for the residents. We have one resident who was very ill, who lives very, very close to that dog park, and they were not even able to go out on their deck the other night because of the constant barking. The gentleman in the back, I appreciate your comments. He's honest. He says there's barking, but it's not excessive. It's not excessive to him because he's not living there 24 hours a day. It certainly wouldn't be excessive to me either if I was probably there for an hour or so. If this dog park could be moved somewhere where it would not affect any residents, I would be in favor of it. I'd be in favor of moving it tomorrow. But evidently, We don't seem to have that option. That is why I am saying, plus something that really nobody has actually looked into yet, is the litigation factor of what if a pit bull got loose down there and God forbid tore into a human being? Is the town at any liability over that? I don't know. But it's a question I really don't want to have to get answered, to be very honest with you. And I'm somewhat surprised that the Recreation Committee, first I want to thank you for doing the work you did. I mean that, because I know you had, I'm talking like it's going to be closed. It may not be closed. I don't know how the vote's going to go. But if it should get closed, I'm sure you put a lot of work and a lot of effort into it. But you came here tonight, and a number of people have asked you, how many dogs? You don't know. How many keys? You don't know. How many permits? You don't know. You should have came here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically, you're asking the board to keep this open on an I don't know what's going to happen basis. I cannot do that. I cannot. Even if you had the numbers, I'll be very honest with you. I would vote to close this park tonight because of the quality of issue of life.
Mr. Dean.
This is an item. This is an item that is very difficult either way you go. I would applaud the rec group for having made the effort. I would applaud the neighbors for having tried to work this out. And the selectmen feel, I know, not speaking for the selectmen, speaking for me, I guess. Then, my feeling was that if there was a possibility to work it out, that is what I would prefer, so that everybody's happy. Well, you know what? Everybody's not happy. There's a real problem here, and I think that there are dog parks, and there are successful dog parks, but most of the ones I've seen that are successful tend to be in the city, where something like that is needed more. Here, I'm not even sure that this is something we need, and I think for me, and I tell you honestly, especially because I know the people involved on both sides and how sincere and good people you all are. I know how hard everybody's worked on both sides. But for me, the analysis is the greater good. Where do we help the most people? And I think the need is severe in this neighborhood, and I think there's a lot of people in this neighborhood. Okay, in fact, I think there are more people affected in this neighborhood than benefit from using the dog park. The numbers that I've seen using the dog park are less than the total number of neighbors that are affected by it. And given all that, I really, I had hoped there was some way that a compromise could reach. I would say that as Joe pointed out, Mr. Vino pointed out, I think maybe you came in a little late and a little short, and maybe a earlier effort and a more comprehensive effort. There's still many questions that have been raised by the group, the neighbors, and this now comes to us. I think we've got to make a decision on it, and I know where I feel on it after a lot of soul searching, and that is the greater good. Who's better served by this issue? And so that's how I feel about it. The neighborhood is what's better served.
Strangely enough, this issue here, as trivial as it seems to some, dog park, reminds me of something Winston Churchill said, that if you don't have any enemies, then you never stood up for anything. But I know this is going to upset a lot of people the way this vote goes either way. But hearing, and I'd also like to echo what Mr. Vino and Mr. Dardino said, thanking everyone for trying to work this out and trying to get this done in a timely fashion, see what everybody was thinking. But I just don't feel that it's, hearing the anecdotes of the neighbors, I just don't feel this is a fair burden to place on their shoulders, and I apologize to those I'm upsetting here with my words, but that's just the way I feel.
It's going to sound like an echo, but personally, I didn't see this getting worked out from the get-go. I've talked to most of the residents down in that area over the last few years when the issue really reared its ugly head, and between then and now, I've heard from most everybody. I've talked with most everybody in the neighborhood, talked with Women's Recreation, and heard, but I never saw a compromise coming here. The fact is the park was developed